in 2022, I began to rethink my years-old project Demonhour, and because it was kinda the third real attempt, I thought, why not in 3D? So called it Demonhour 3D. Like all these games end of the 90s, begin of the 2000s, in which 3D was a new thing and everything, the third part of everything coming out these days needs to be called 3D. So I planned it from the beginning to the October 2022, kinder. And here I began to think, what was Demonhour? Demonhour began 2013 as in Adventure Maker, a point-and-click adventure in 1024 to 768 pixel adventure. So the technique, the program behind that wasn't updated since 2004, but I was used to that from my childhood, because between 2004 and 2007, I used pictures from my first digital camera and made little point-and-click adventures, because I started with PowerPoint, and that was Also, I hid text documents in folder structures of Windows, finding your way through an folder labyrinth, kinder. And yes, the Adventure Maker was the first program that definitely gave me more opportunities. And here you can see I planned, it is in German, I'm very sorry. I will talk in English, but some of my, especially of the older files I have here, I wrote in German, but usually my projects are now in English. But this started with Demonhour, kinder, to make everything in English. This channel here and the attempt to make a short movie was also kind of one of my first attempts to be more international, because after 2020, after Corona, and after I got more into VR, I got so much more to people all over the world. Yeah, and the project Horror House was 2013, a little Halloween project around October. Some beans from my village beta tested it. And in 2014, I started on a Demonhour 2, but I discarded it a good half year after that, because it feature creeped way too much, and also that was a very hard year for me. So everything kinda stopped until 2016. Then I kinda brought out a Demonhour 2 and called it a Demonhour story, because I wanted to tell a complete new story. And that I had on my webpage for quite some years. It was made in October again, and I was ill in October, and so I had the complete October sitting at home, and I needed something to do. 1 year later, I updated it around the Halloween time. First time crashing the boundaries of the Adventure Maker, still the Adventure Maker, to do everything in HD, full HD. And that was definitely something the program wasn't meant to be used for, but well. And it took me 5 more years in which I did so many different things, but not a new Demonhour. And so I needed to make a Demonhour 3. A Demonhour story was now not longer in the house of my grandma, but in my new apartment here, my first really own kingdom, yeah. And I had these rooms. I made it with less UI, more immersive, because it should be cute horror. Cute horror is something like, like Luigi's Mansion or so. So you have spooky things, but you're not getting nightmares from it. It is more entertainment horror. It's more spook than horror. And yeah, here is a plan of my apartment, kinder, as as it was back in these days at least. References were definitely James Wan is one of my top men when it comes to horror references, because the movies the Bean is doing are totally cool. They have a certain style, something like the Insidious or Conjuring, Annabelle. He's just crafting a whole universe out of spook. And of course, also The Ring and The Grudge were movies in my childhood that totally frightened me. And these girls from Asia with the long, dirty, dark white dresses and the dark hair covering the face, and you can't just really see the face. You have to imagine how it looks under these filthy hairs. This is definitely a horror that also definitely gave me some influence. Also this there is something in German, we call it Ewigreich. I should watch the movies in English now that I feel more fluent in English, so I can enjoy movies now fully in English without needing any subtitles. So I don't know the name in English. It would be something like the Forever Realm. So you have this, there is a dimension of death that sips through all of what we know, and you have like a color hue shifted version of your house in fog. This is definitely something I still plan to bring in to Demonhour, because this kind of atmosphere I enjoyed so much. Also, a friend of mine did the Pioneer Drive games. As in 2016, I played these games. He brought it out in 2014, and in Germany, in little spook communities, these games of him were very well known, and it is a cool little spook experience. The mystery house horror, in which you just enter a different house that is not yours, but you have the house, and a house is something that is cozy, but when it's dark, then you know from your own house it can be spooky. So horror is also something about a familiar thing that is twisted and turned. So I also like it more in horror when it begins nice and bright and everything is fancy. It slowly falls apart then. You have to build up something to destroy it then. It's like with character in films and games. You have to like them before you can't just kill someone randomly in the first scene and think that the audience will mourn when they don't know the person there, And in 2014, the Bean brought this out, and in 2016 I streamed it. The person just, looked into my stream and followed me, and we are friends still today. And I'm, a new game that is more horror driven, I'm definitely waiting for. So Pioneer Drive also got my attention and also influenced me, because I like these old mansions in which you have to, it is like a roller coaster of spook. You just are on your way through this house, and everywhere you can find little secrets. And the first Pioneer Drive was quite linear, but in the following years, he did more of a non-linear experience. So you could just nearly freely roam the house, and everywhere was something to do. This is an attempt that I wanted for my Demonhour 3D. Homeless, for example, was a remake of Pioneer Drive that he did, and that was definitely more the it was with more riddles and more non-linear, and that definitely gave more immersion to the experience. And Layers of Fear was definitely one of my favorite. The first Layers of Fear was one of my favorite horror games ever. I'm not the biggest fan of these mind games, that everything is just in your head. But I like definitely the amount of detail, yeah, that was put into this house, into this, yeah, and I also like these old houses definitely, because something that is old can tell you a story. When something is old, it's clear that something must have happened there already before you were there, because everything is so old, looks used, looks dirty, looks broken. I mean, it is kind of also transporting on a visual way that something is broken. So horror is also definitely something about that there's kind of a patina on what was before. And you have to lift, to remove that patina, to look through, to look what's below that, what happened there. And this is definitely something that Layers of Fear managed to transport. Then, of course, you hear the background music. This is not Luigi's Mansion, but it sounds like Luigi's Mansion, because with the music for Demonhour, I aimed for something sound-wise that seems a bit like Luigi's Mansion, because in 2002, on the GameCube as a starting title, I mean, it was the first Nintendo console that has not a Mario starting title, but a Luigi starting title, and these Luigi's Mansion games, till today, are just the core essence of cute spook, yeah? That you have little shock moments, but they don't let you have too much of nightmares, because everything is so, yeah, it's cute, it's toony, I mean, I aim not for that amount of tooniness, of course. I keep it more realistic, not that stylized, and also not that amount of, yeah, family-friendly cute spook, like also the Ghost Mansion with Eddie Murphy back then. But it's definitely to keep things a little bit softer. Also, you know, when you have a soup, then you could just put a bit of sugar in a hearty soup, and vice versa. Sometimes it is interesting to have chocolate and then a spicy note in this. When you put something on the opposite spectrum into it, it can definitely make the whole experience richer. So when you make a spooky house and you give a hint of humor here and there and a hint of cuteness here and there, then the whole experience, you know, it is difficult to make it not ridiculous then. But if you manage it, in my opinion, it definitely helps to create a richer experience, yeah? So, and Luigi's Mansion was just something, as I was a child, it definitely, kept in my mind, and, awakened also the need for spooky stories in me, yeah? I just thought here, no garden, yeah? On the upper left, you see Granny's garden. I mean, a little a part of that. I don't know why I chose this picture. I guess because I had it. And on the lower right, you see the garden of the Pioneer Drive games. Or was it even in... it was. And I liked the game Visage from 2020. And this game was nearly never outside, just in the house, but the house was top quality. And I wanted to have something like a big garden needs to, you have to look, when you are in the garden, you know, you see your neighborhood, you see the streets, you see the sky, you see in the distant. And I'm just a single developer, and this is a hobby project, and I thought, you know, a garden needs to be showcased. You have to have bushes and trees and a fence, and there needs to be something behind that and behind that and behind that. How far can you see? I'm not doing Silent Hill, in which the fog will just cut your vision after a few meters. So I wanted to save that and just concentrate on interior, because for exterior I need foliage. What do I need? Speed tree. I just wanted to keep it simple, yeah. And then the windows. I thought these here are photos of Granny's actual house. On the lower left, for example, you see the entrance door, and that definitely I brought into into the project just like that. You will see that later. And I thought that the good thing is that Granny had so much of this non-look-throughable glass that just gives you a hint what's behind that. So I just thought, make windows which are blurred, so you can't see through. So the first windows I made were just planes that glowed in moonlight color. So they should be like light sources and illuminating the rooms from all sides. I mean, that doesn't make sense. The moon would shine from one side, but the windows all around should just bring more light into the rooms. But I wanted to save. My first thought was, how about rain on the windows? But rain needs particle effects, needs wetness outside, and just cut the rain. Just make windy, stormy weather, but no outside. Just windows through which you can't see outside. That was my first plan. And then I thought, which materials? On the upper left, you see a picture from a game. What was it called? The Exorcism or... No, not Exorcism. I forgot the name of the game. It was quite neat. But you see how detailed the materials were, and I thought, I can't do that. So I asked a person, and for a couple of bucks, he made me some materials. On the lower left, you see the real carpet of my granny's house, and then the following maps the person created to match these 80s, 90s grayish carpet with short fuzz. In Germany, we all had this through these times. And to the right, you see a texture of wooden panels and a tapestry that's classical for horror mansions. Yeah, and that was also inspired by the upper left picture of this game. Oh, there is just the name. It was Layers of Fear 2. Interesting. But yeah, that was a reference picture. And then you see to the left of the textures on the right that I brought it into Unity to test it. And I also printed it in real life on a it was kind of, imagine a 7 to 7 inch carpet, and just hang that onto the wall to have a spooky mansion feeling in real life here, to get a feeling for all of that. Yeah. And so I got a few materials, and I just began to learn, because before I just used simple pictures and point and click different layers of pictures like on PowerPoint. And I needed to learn what is a material, and all these different channels that do different things with a material to add depth and height and distortion and roughness and metallicity and everything. And that was definitely something in 3D gaming in late 2022 I just began to learn. I was already working in the gaming industry since 2020, but as a narrative designer, and I made documentation, designs, but I wasn't doing many things. I did it. I worked in a company-owned engine in which I definitely made a bit of level design. I brought in one of our games a third of all objects that were non-procedural, put it into the world, were put there by me. So, but I didn't had to do those deep things. I was a junior and just one person in the company. But here I needed to do everything my own. But that helped me so much learning all these things. Definitely a good thing. So I wanted to make it all as close to reality as possible. And what helped me was that I always did so many pictures as I was a child of the house of my granny. So it was easy to rebuild so much. To the lower left, you see something from Luigi's Mansion. I always liked this portrait character. Pictures are spooky. No? The headline says that here. Pictures are spooky. And and in Luigi's Mansion, you had these pictures kind of living, because living persons were turned into pictures. But in general, I think that pictures can seem very lively. Good. To the right, you clearly see it's a caricature, in this case of my mother. And I drew during 2020 my whole family and printed it and brought it into real life on my wall of the printed fabric that I told you, printed with the materials of the wall. I can show that later. And I also thought that these family caricatures I could definitely bring into the game. I would start with the house of my grandma, and to make a more fancy game with more things to happen there, I would exaggerate it a bit. I would build a basement that she doesn't have, a tower, a watchtower on the house, to add a few more rooms that were not there, make the whole thing bigger. That was definitely also something that I wanted to do. And yeah, I was just telling the granny mansion that I wanted to expand it a bit, and that I will definitely work with the pictures I already had. And everything was definitely just a hobby, but it is so difficult to do everything by your own. With the music, for example, I got help from a friend that works in a voice acting and music studio. I learned there 2017 and 18. I got 3 internships there to learn about audio design and more. And so here and there, I just got some things made by others. And I brought it onto a credits board. I just put it into the world I created in Unity then. Und yeah, here I just said that I will just do my thing, yeah. And then I learned, and I had to make the stuff by myself. Here you see in Germany we call Windfang. It is it is like catching the wind. This room means it is kind of a room before you enter the house, where you have wardrobes, where you can put your jackets, your shoes, it is not really a hallway, but it is kind of something that when you go into grocery store, you also have this room where that should catch the cold and hold it there. A room which opening doors in which you just enter to go through into the into the main room, and this was the starting point. And I began with a cube in Blender, and I learned all the things how to do everything in Blender. And my documentation then started in English, because I learned that you need to use English and to learn it in English, because when you ask for help, then the people can just help you when you're just searching for help in English. Because 80 million, 100 million, 150 million people, how many people can speak German? And English should nearly be spoken by everyone. So yeah, I learned here how to expand things in Blender, the cube, into rooms, to have an outside and an inside. For example, here you see that the red is outside, the blue is kind of the surface on which you can move. And I thought, I don't need an outside of the rooms, I just need an inside, because there should be no outside to that point, yeah. So I just, and there I made the hole for the entrance door. I also bought a few props. A few props were royalty free, CC0. I can use it however. And others are CCA. So you can use them when you credit the owner. For example, from Sketchfab. And so I got a few things, but many things that I liked about Granny's house in my childhood, I definitely wanted to create by myself, yeah. Yeah, and so, on late 2022, I began to learn Blender to bring Demonhour 3D out. And not just in 3D now, no, also in VR. So I used the platform VRChat that already had a big base of people that, it's like a YouTube for 3D content. And it's multiplayer. That makes it difficult on so many new ways. You have to do it in 3D now instead of in 2D. You have to make it VR compatible. You have to look that it is performant, because VR hits your computer hard. And it is multiplayer, so when you code, you have to learn the differences between something happening local, global, synced, serialization, all this stuff. And that was much to learn. But that I will tell you next time I do such a development upgrade, update, I need to drink something. You hear my voice? The funny thing is, I was ill. Again, I was ill in October. Octobers are my ill month. So in 2022, I was ill again. And I had such a voice, and I pitched it down, and then I had a nice voice for some demons. So, thanks for your attention. If you really watched it till now, how about writing something in the comments to prove it? See ya!